the asshole for harboring resentment against my holier-than-thou grandmother after finding out a huge family secret? I, 25 female, found out from my mother, 45 female, a few years ago that she had discovered her father, the grandfather I know, was not her biological father. What's crazy is she found out accidentally. So a little backstory, my mom has always taken health and wellness very seriously, so when she and I started to have some similar health issues, she started looking into our family history through Ancestry.com to see if she could find anything out of note. She took a DNA test and found out.
She was 100%.
She took a DNA test and was shocked to find that my grandfather, her alleged dad, was nowhere on her biological family tree. For some backstory, my mom and I didn't always get along. I think it's just because she had me young, and when I was a teenager, we bumped heads a lot, but we got along fine. When I was 17, I moved to my grandmother's just for a little space from my parents, and because it was closer to my college, and it just ended up working out. It was easier because my mom was single until she met my stepdad, so I had spent a lot of time with my grandparents anyways. Everything was fine at first because I was still an obedient little girl, especially when it came to my grandmother. I adored her. There's not much I wouldn't do for her approval, from joining her church's worship team to almost marrying someone borderline abusive just because she liked them at 23.
Oh, wow.
I know this sounds bad, but if you know what it's like to grow up religious, it's so easy to get roped into being a people pleaser. My grandmother would preach constantly that I had to stay on the right path or that I would go to hell in a handbasket. She even did things like show me extremist videos about the end times, etc. Wild. Things started to change when I developed a brain of my own. I realized a bunch of stuff I did and wore wasn't even me. I was just doing it for validation from people who didn't even care about me. They just cared about what I could do. I started going out more, making friends. I got my first tattoo. My grandmother started acting really strange around this time. She constantly forbid me from having sleepovers with my best friend because I had to be careful about sleeping in the same bed as a girl. She was livid when I got my septum pierced, saying it was just ugly and made me uglier, and why couldn't I just be good? She just kept acting off as months passed and started being really snappy and rude. So the main story, a few days later, my mom sat me down and told me everything. I asked her if she really got the DNA test because of medical history. She said it was partly that and partly that she jokingly had said she was going to take a DNA test in front of my grandmother, and she basically snapped saying that my mom didn't need to take one. Ooh. And that she was just trying to start stuff. Suspicious. LOL.
Facts.
So my mom took it and boom, there it is. I asked my mom if she had confronted her, and she said she told her that she had 2 weeks to come clean or she would go to my grandpa herself. My grandma denied everything, saying that she never knew that my grandpa wasn't my mom's dad, but my mom saw the look on her face when she said it, and it wasn't a look of shock. It was a look of, oh shit, I'm caught. So she doesn't believe she didn't know. I was floored. I couldn't believe this woman who spoke in tongues and shamed me for ripped jeans was harboring a secret baby daddy, but she was worried about my tattoos and piercings. That's not even what really got me though. My grandmother pushes toxic purity culture so heavily. She basically believes that a woman is less valuable if she isn't a virgin when she's married and is a dedicated housewife. She picks this man's underwear up off the floor. So the fact that she of all people in the world had been pushing me because I wasn't doing what she thought was right when she can't even do what she thinks is right is insane. I started to feel rage at this point. I couldn't bear to look at my grandmother, and we started getting into more fights. It would honestly be different if she was the kind of Christian who admitted she wasn't perfect, but she's quite the opposite, which drives a lot of people away, including friends I would invite over. Nobody wants to come over and hear a lecture about how they're living their life wrong, you know? I'm honestly starting to feel disgust, and it hasn't gone away. I'm not rude to her or anything, I just kind of avoid her because I don't know what to say. Anyways, am I the asshole? And then there's an update. So update, my mom found relatives. Hello everyone, I certainly wasn't expecting this many comments. I haven't gotten to read all of them as I am a full-time med student with 2 jobs, but let me clarify some things. 1, it was not SA. If it had been I'm not heartless, I would feel completely different about the situation because it's relatable to me. I understand religious culture and culture in the South with older generations. A lot of times women weren't believed about SA.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother ended up telling my grandpa about everything before my mom could and keeps saying she doesn't know and doesn't remember anything from that time, but I call BS. My grandmother can tell me what she ate on her 12th birthday at dinner. This woman forgets nothing, so I think she just doesn't want to talk about it, which is kind of understandable. You keep a secret that long, it's got to be painful to have it come out. I took this into consideration and started trying to be nicer to her, but she just pushed me away more and started taking her anger out on me. I couldn't do anything right. She even called me a whore one time just for going on a date that lasted past 10 p.m. So I just started staying in my room, going to school and work and sleeping, and that's all my life is right now. There were also some comments saying that my grandmother was trying to protect me because she knows what men can be like and what the world can be like. I understand. I thought about this and considered it too, and I understand that maybe her behavior is protective, but I wanted to give a little advice to all you older folks out there with kids and grandkids. My generation respects people owning up to their mistakes. If she would have came from a place of, hey, I've made these mistakes and I know what it's like, so let me help you avoid doing whatever I did, versus you'll never be as perfect or godly as me, but you can at least try. I'd be a lot more open to listening, but the holier than thou behavior is what has a lot of people my age heading out of the church doors, not in. But anyways, my mother is a certified sleuth. It took her about 48 hours to track down her cousins and 2 sisters. The sister lives pretty far, but her cousin lives 45 minutes away. They set up a lunch that same day and met. Here are the details. Let's just call her Anne. My mother's biological dad, sadly deceased, was a family friend of my grandma's family. They were the same age and started an affair after my grandma had my aunt, her second child. Anne's mother knew about the affair between my grandma and her brother and also knew my grandfather's family. Everyone was acquainted before the affair. Apparently, my grandparents had been fighting at the time. According to my grandfather, he was surprised but happy when my mother came along. You have to understand from what my mom and grandfather tell me, my grandma pushed for them to be as close as possible. My mom is the child my grandpa is closest to, his favorite. Apparently, my grandmother pushed for them to hang out together, go on day trips, just the 2 of them, almost like she was trying to create a failsafe. And my siblings and I were constantly with my grandparents when I was young, more than any other of the grandchildren. My grandfather is livid. He's not a talkative man, but he talks to me and my mom. This is how the conversation went. Me: how are you feeling about everything? Grandpa: you understand, you're still my granddaughter, and I love you. Nothing will change that. But I gave up my life for your grandmother. She was disgusted by the music I listened to, the friends I had, and even my family. I distanced myself from everyone. I threw away all of my records. I started going to a church I didn't even want to go to, all for her. I always thought she was a good girl. Even when my family would say things about her, I always chose her. It just hurts to know she didn't choose me. I hugged my grandpa. And he told me that also one day his sister came up to him and said, that girl isn't who you think she is, but wouldn't give any other details. But he mostly ignored it. She was also saying how his family was no good and just using him. Here's the kicker though. My mom sat me down and said, I need to show you something. She pulled out a picture of my uncle, her older brother, that was really faded and kind of old-timey and said, who is this? And I looked at her confused and I said, duh, it's Uncle G. And she looked at me dead in the eyes and said, no, this is a picture of my father. What? More updates to come. I'll let you guys know when I do, but the plot thickens, I guess. And then there's another update. Hey guys, just thought I'd clarify for some people thinking my grandma slept with her son. I can assure you that did not happen. No way. When I saw the picture of her biological dad as a teenager, he looked almost identical to my uncle, so my mom thinks he might be my uncle's dad too. I'm talking same smile, same stance, same eyes, same nose, even the same early onset balding spot, lol. But my uncle refuses to take a DNA test because he likes his life the way it is and his dad is his dad. I get the denial, but I'm telling you, if you guys saw these pictures of my uncle and my mom's bio dad, you'd think they were twins. It's insane. But I get his perspective. Some people just don't want to know and choose familiarity over truth. My entire extended family is pretty avoidant to begin with, so I didn't expect him to want to know more. They're all quite happy with ignoring tension and secrets and pretending everything is okay. As a neurodivergent with a strong sense of justice, if you know, you know, it really bothers me that my family can sit back and be fake with each other while there's these huge unspoken issues that no one will communicate about. I think that's the part of the reason I'm having such a hard time with this. And then top comment, of course not. Her behavior towards you because of her hidden shame is unacceptable. If she had truly been trying to protect you, she would have approached you and advised you out of concern. Instead, she verbally, mentally, and emotionally beat you up instead of dealing with her own choices and mistakes. This would be my affirmation that low contact to no contact would be warranted. People who need to bring others down to try and keep themselves in a higher place reap what they sow. Go live your best life, and you should get support to wipe her negative voice out of your mind. You don't need to carry that rage of hers anymore.